Hey everyone, this is Chris and you are watching Wasteland by Wednesday. Today we're diving deep into something that should have us all paying a little bit more attention. We're talking about bird flu, specifically the H5N1 strain, and why, despite it not being a new threat, the situation has taken an unsettling turn lately. This virus, which first appeared in 1996, has now evolved to spread in ways that should have us all on high alert. So, let's talk about what that means. And welcome to the Wasteland. All right, so over the next few months, I plan to do a few different videos to talk about some of the individual threats we are facing that have global collapse potential. This will be the first of that new threat vector series, and we'll kick it off with the subject that's gaining more traction in the news lately, meaning bird flu. Okay, so H5N1 is the strain we're talking about here, and it was initially just a problem for birds. A virus that didn't seem to have much of a direct impact on humans until it did. In 1997, I believe it was, China saw its first major outbreak. The virus jumped from poultry to humans, infecting 18 people, 6 of whom died. Now, that was the first red flag, but this virus didn't just stay confined to birds. Over the recent years, it has made the jump to mammals like raccoons, foxes, sea lions, and now even cattle and pigs in the US and Canada. To date, there have been more than 800 confirmed cases, and the death rate, well, it's around 50%. Yeah, you heard that right, 50%. Now, it's not just about the numbers, okay? It's about the recent evolutionary progress of the virus that should have us worried. H5N1, which once only impacted birds, like we said, has now found its way into a variety of other mammals. And that's a huge concern because it's a step closer to making that jump to humans. We are mammals after all. And by the jump to humans, I mean human-to-human transmission, not just infecting humans, animal to human. Over the past couple years, scientists have noticed the virus evolving rapidly, and here's the key point. If H5N1 ever mutates enough to spread easily between humans, then we could be looking at a pandemic of devastating consequences. So one of the big questions too is, are we already seeing the beginning of this? Well, let's take a look at what's happening now. In recent months, the virus has been spreading among dairy cattle in North America. But the concerning part is it's been mutating in ways that make it more adept at infecting mammals. And not just any mammals, we're talking about humans. Genetic mutations that make the virus more capable of replicating in mammals and binding to human receptors. This is the evolutionary leap that scientists have been dreading, and we're starting to see it unfold right in front of us. So take the recent case in Texas where a farm worker contracted H5N1 after working closely with infected dairy cattle. The virus was detected in his system, but here's the kicker, is that nobody in his household or workplace showed symptoms. So it didn't spread, yet. But this is the kind of thing we need to keep an eye on. Each time the virus hops from animal to human, it gets a little closer to being able to jump from human to human. And that's when things get really dangerous. Okay, now don't get too comfortable thinking that this isn't an immediate threat. Bird flu has been spreading farther and faster than ever before in these last 2 years. The longer the virus circulates, the more opportunities it has to mutate. And when it mutates enough, it's going to find a way to pass between humans. It's only a matter of time. The more the virus spreads through mammals, cattle, pigs, even wild animals, the greater the chance that it will adapt. And once it does, it won't just be a few isolated cases like we see today. It'll be a global crisis, one worthy of civilizational collapse. But the scariest part is that we still don't know yet how bad it could get. We don't have all the data. We don't know how many unreported cases are out there. Many workers in the US who are likely exposed haven't been getting tested. Combine that with the fact that we have no idea what kind of data tracking is being done overseas, if any. And if that sounds familiar, think back to the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. It started with a handful of cases in Asia, and before we knew it, it was a worldwide catastrophe. We can't afford to be caught off guard again. But whether we can afford it or not, it looks like we might be screwed given how governments seem to be handling this. You know, are they taking it seriously enough? Are they sharing the necessary data to understand the full scope of the virus's spread? Some scientific experts out there are worried that it's definitely not being taken seriously enough, especially in light of political distractions that have slowed down action on global health recently. But even if governments do act now, the damage may already be done. The current spread is already far outside of any possible containment. If this virus evolves and if we start seeing person-to-person transmission, the death toll could be catastrophic. And that's something else we need to think about, is that the mortality rate for H5N1 is still pretty uncertain. But even the most conservative estimates suggest that it is somewhere around 18 to 30%. Now that's a devastating mortality rate. For comparison, past influenza pandemics like the Spanish flu in 1918 had death rates of around 2.5%. H5N1, if it evolves to spread between humans, could be far worse. And the more it spreads, the faster it will adapt. And the higher the chances we'll see a pandemic that we have no hope of containing. Okay, so let's talk about exactly what that means for you and me. We've seen how quickly a pandemic can unfold. You know, look at COVID-19. 1 minute it was just a few cases, and the next thing you know, it's spreading across continents. If this happens with H5N1, you need to be ready. And I'm not just talking about having the right supplies, although that's important too. I'm talking about being mentally prepared for a disruption of this scale and having a plan in place to get out of Dodge before things get too crazy. A pandemic doesn't just affect our health, it grinds society itself to a halt. It disrupts everything from the economy to social systems to everything else. If H5N1 starts spreading, the collapse potential is real. Okay, so what can we do? Well, right now it's about preparing ahead of time. Get your supplies together, stock up on essentials. If you don't already have a plan, now is the time to get one made. Because while we might not see a global crisis this month or next, the signs are there. It's only a matter of time. To make matters worse, with the virus still spreading unchecked, it has already mutated in some troubling ways. In British Columbia, just a few days ago, a teenager was hospitalized after contracting a new genotype of H5N1. Now, this new strain is different. It's more adapted to human receptors, which is exactly what we've been fearing. If this new strain is viable, and if it takes off, we could be facing the start of something much bigger than we've prepared for. Now that, in part, is what inspired me to make this video today. That just happened on, I believe, the November 14th was the news out of British Columbia, and they still haven't finished actually sequencing the new samples. But it's very concerning. The teenager was in critical condition last I checked. They don't know how she got it. They don't know anything. All they know is that it does show 2 new mutations that are very concerning. So where do we go from here? The clock is ticking. We don't want to react in fear, but the more you delay, the more you risk letting this thing catch you by surprise. You need to prepare now while you still can. When it happens, and I believe it's coming sooner rather than later, we'll all need to act fast. An outbreak of this magnitude could result in some pretty significant government overreach early on. And by that, I mean lockdowns, closed roads, and travel restrictions. If you aren't ready to move at the first hint of real trouble, you might not be able to move later. So look, guys, don't wait. Make your preparations now and stay alert. Keep an eye on the news. We've seen this story before, okay? Let's not get caught off guard again. Now, I've put together a longer, more in-depth article for this subject on my website, full of source material and resources, and I will link that in the description below. As always, stay safe and stay ready. It's a wasteland out there.